This is a video review of Tobot Adventure X. I've already shown you Tobot X, which is a figure, and Tobot Evolution X, which is a quite nice figure with a couple of flaws. And now it's time to show you the last of the currently excellent Tobot X figures. Who knows if they'll make more. Tobot Adventure X. And for the most part, I really like this guy, but he does have some problems that make me not like him quite as much as this guy. Now, to begin with, his car model looks quite a bit more rugged than most of the other Kia vehicles that are in the Tobots line. I'm not saying it's the most rugged looking thing ever, but it does have this front section on the grille. I have no idea what it's called, but it does make it look a bit more ready for going off-road than most others. He also has all this equipment on him, a spare tire, a winch, and the winch does work. It's just a pain to use because you have to use an uncomfortable amount of force to pull it out, and then winding it up is a pain too because it's hard to get a grip on this piece. He also has a spare tire, the extra fuel canisters on the side, a shovel, and an axe, making him overall quite well equipped to go off-road. We can pull all this stuff off. And then this is the bearer car mode, and for the most part I really like this, except I don't like all the little blemishes on the car mode. So there's a clip here, clip here, clip here, clip here, tab here, holes here, and a clip here. I do think they do detract from the car mode. When you have all this stuff attached to them, it's not that bad. It's just basically this one, but it does make the bearer car mode a bit annoying, which basically means that you always kind of want to have these on hand to get the best experience out of this toy, which is both nice because they do add to the toy, but also kind of bad because without them the toy isn't as good as it would be by itself. And that annoys me because I don't like keeping track of a lot of stuff and I'm just playing with the toy. I just want to play with the toy. So we'll get to these a bit more later. They do actually a fair amount with him that I'll show you. For the moment, all we really need, what we'll need going forward is this to be the key. You don't really need the key to use this guy, but I'll show it to you anyway. And then the shovel can also be the key because the head will come off. So put that back. Keep this off to the side for now. The car rolls really well, which is really nice because the other Tobot Adventure figure was Tobot Adventure Z, which was a really nice figure. I really love that figure. But that one couldn't really roll because of how the wheels were constructed for its transformation, which was a bit of a shame, but was a worthwhile trade-off for how awesome the rest of the figure was. So it's nice that this one can roll. Now moving on to the transformation, first thing we want to do is we want to take the hood, pop it up like this. It'll clip in back here, and it's not the strongest clip in the world because don't pick them up by it, but it will keep the kibble up and out of the way for the entire time you're playing with it. So it's as strong as it needs to be. Now, for the key, you just slide the base of the axe in here. And what it's going to do is it's going to split the sides away like this by unclipping them from a clip in here, that little red thing there. But you really don't need to use the key because it's really not strong enough to withstand the might of your greasy man fingers, but and I'm not saying that because it'll break if you pull it apart, and that's fine. No, I'm saying it's because it's kind of meant to be like this anyway if you don't want to use the keys. So anyway, to continue with the transformation, you'll want to pop it up from here because it does clip into the side here, and then pull it out like this. There's a little tab right here which goes onto a little clip in there. And anyway, when you pull these out, watch what happens. It will be pushed back by a spring, so like that. So it's not going to fall down. Now anyway, to move on, next thing you'll do, and listen to these wonderful ratchets, you'll bring the legs down and the feet up, and I like to bring the knees back one clip like this, and then turn it around and split the legs. Now the next bit of transformation is actually kind of cool, although it does have some it does cause some problems. But I'll get to those when I cover the posability. Now you can see the head in there, and the way the head reveal works is you pull this down, which will rotate the shoulders up, but will also pull the head out. And I think that is really neat. Now to finish this off, you're going to pop the front doors from the back doors and bring them down. Do the same on both sides. And then you're going to pop the hands out of the sides here, like this. And this is Tobot Adventure X in his robot mode. For the most part, I really like this guy, the way he looks. And the only problem I have with him is that he's supposed to be like Adventure X, so he's supposed to be the more rugged version of Tobot X, but look at him compared to Evolution X. He is scrawny. Like, Evolution X isn't even standing straight, and it's taller than Adventure X, and it's also way more bulky. Like, this guy's actually ends up a bit bigger at the kibble up here, but at the head, Evolution X is a lot bigger. So, for being the more rugged figure, it certainly doesn't look like the more rugged figure, but for the most part, I do like the way it looks. Although, I will say, the way the robot mode looks does not have quite the same aesthetic as most of the other Tobot figures. This one has more controlled and purposeful proportions, whereas a lot of the other Tobot figures, I'll bring Evolution X back in, just have wild proportions with big blocks of chunk in them. And that's not quite what Adventure X does. It's more proportioned like a modern Transformer than a Tobot. And so it's not a bad thing, it just doesn't quite fit in as well with the other Tobot figures, which it's not the end of the world. It's still a really nice figure, although it does have some problems. I will cover what these things do, but I'm going to cover the posability first, because they do kind of get in the way of the posability. Now, the posability, the arms will bend at the elbow like this on a really nice ratchet. Then the arms go forward and back here, and then in and out. Now, one thing to watch out for is when you bring the arm all the way forward like this, there's a stop here on this kibble right here. If you try and move it any more forward, what will happen is this. This section right here will come undone. And the reason for this is because there is a little red clip down there. It's a spring-loaded clip that will attach, that will grip onto this little gray tab up here. And that's what causes that click sound when it comes down. But there's only one, so it's not the strongest connection in the world. Now, normally, it's strong enough to resist the ratchets moving forward and back here, but I don't know which is going to get loose first, the ratchets in the arms here or this right here. I think probably the ratchets and the arms will get loose first, so it's probably a non-issue, but this is still something to be concerned about if you're buying this figure, that maybe eventually moving the arms will move the upper torso like this, which will make it just not fun to play with. So that's one of the concerns I have. The other problem that comes about because of this transformation bit is that the head here does not have any articulation. The auto-morph gimmick that it has pulling out like this means that it cannot turn left and right, which is a bit of a shame because I would have been fine with this just pulling forward and then you pull the head up and then it has head articulation, because that's what a lot of the other Tobot figures do. But anyway, moving on, he does have a waist joint, but if you undo it, it is kind of, if you take it out from the just straight forward position or straight back, it does kind of spin a lot. So it's not really a useful joint, but it's there if you, say, maybe try and tighten the joint or something. Then the legs will move forward and back, in and out. They'll bend, well, 180 degrees if nothing gets in the way. And then the feet can move like this. And that is the posability for Tobot Adventure X. Now, what sucks about this is that the way that his legs are designed, he has big feet. They're nice and big, but he can't bend them forward much. The most you can do is just bend this forward a little bit. And what that means is that he cannot get into the same kind of poses that this guy can, where he can just naturally stand basically however he wants. This guy has a very limited range of poses he can hold, which does make him a bit more like most Tobot figures, which only have one or two decent poses they can hold, which is a bit of a shame for the line, but it is meant to be for smaller kids in the 3 to 6 age group or something like that. So it makes sense why they don't put much effort into posability or into stability for standing, but I wish they would put a bit more thought into that. So this pose right here, it is standing, but it'll fall over pretty easily. So the most stable position for him to stand in is basically this right here with his legs straight. Well, not quite straight. It's the feet all the way forward, and then the knee bent back one click. Because if you put it all the joints forward, then he leans forward, which is kind of odd. And if you bring this back, then he'll stand just fine like this, but his feet are a bit more forward, whereas if you put this one click forward and one click back, his feet will be more under his center of mass, will have slightly better balance. And not that really matters, he'll stand either way, but just in case you want him to have better balance, that's the best way to stand him up like this. Now, moving on to the accessories, I've let this go on a little bit long. He has this piece right here, which is the winch and the gas cans. And this thing actually acts as a belt, a utility belt, like Batman. So what you do is you open it up like this, you take it around his waist, and then you clip it into the side like this. And then that will be his belt. He even has a belt buckle to the side. And then he has the axe, which can fit into his hand like this, although it doesn't really reach over the kibble on his arm too well. And then the axe can go into a small holder on the side here. You can do the same thing with the shovel. It can fit into the hand like this, but it's even worse where you can't see it over the kibble in his arm, which is unfortunate. But the shovel can also fit into a pocket. Gotta pull this off. If you put it in like this, and I know this is getting kind of hard to see, everything's kind of getting in the way, then pop this up. And then he has both of these off to the side, and then he has this little spare tire which can go onto his arm like this. Which is a bit of a cop-out because there's no real better place for it to go, but at least it goes somewhere. Anyway, this is the video review of Tobot Adventure X. He is, again, I've said this in just about most of my Tobot reviews, a good figure, and if you have him or can get him for cheap, he's great. You'll play with him a lot, especially if you're into Tobots, but unless you're really into Tobots, he's probably not worth getting just because you're going to have to pay a fair amount for him anyway, especially because he's a new figure that's in high demand in Korea right now. And then you're also going to have to pay shipping on top of it, so I really wouldn't pay more than 40 bucks for him. He's about a $40 figure, I would say that. He's worth about 40 bucks, but more than that, and he starts to get kind of iffy, especially because he's not quite as good as his earlier incarnation here, especially for one thing that I kind of forgot to mention. This figure has some wobble in the legs, but for the most part, it's fairly solid. This figure, on the other hand, just wobbles all over the place, and that it's not really a structural problem. He'll hold any pose you put him in just fine, and he's not going to have parts just coming off of him, but it is kind of annoying that he will wiggle that much. He doesn't flop, he just wiggles. But anyway, this has been a video review for Tobot Adventure X. I do really like him, and if you're really into Tobots, certainly try and track him down, but he's, get him if you can find him cheap. I review Transformers, Tobots, Digimon, Macross figures, lots of stuff like that. If any of that sounds interesting, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.